it's cool to see like people that I know and trust and care about their opinion, and for them to talk about like your character and like Proton, and like for them to admire
Yeah.
what we did, not just my performance, because I just can't imagine my sister would tell me she didn't like it.
Sure.
But for her to be like, that guy that was on the bench with you he's so funny. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, he is.
That,
So, you having fun yet?
Welcome to episode 7 of the Late Game Podcast. I am co-creator Jeffrey M. Zucker, producer and actor in the film as well, with my co-creator, the writer and director, Jeff Tyner.
Hey, baby boy.
How's it hanging?
A little tired, late game.
Ha.
And yeah, had to wake up kind of early, so I think we're both a little drowsy today.
Yes, for sure. So we both had beer league games last night. You know, we've mentioned that we are both on the Bear Seals now, but you had to forego the Bear Seals game for a championship game with the Pizza Boys. And, you know, we haven't talked yet. Yeah, I was going to say we haven't talked yet offline even much about our game. So, yeah, I'm curious to hear how it went.
It was a good game. We played the only team that beat us in the regular season, and we had to play them twice. We had to beat them twice in a row to win the whole thing, and we won in very dramatic fashion last week in overtime, despite a pretty bad hose job by the referees. We still fought through it and won. And then the guy who got the game-winning goal last week had to travel for work, so we didn't have him, one of our best players. But it was almost the same outcome. I think that game was 2-1 last week, and we lost 3-2 in a shootout this week. But I had a pretty decent game on my own, but it still sucks not to win.
Yeah, that's sad and frustrating to hear. You know, to briefly go back to last week, we had our Denver watch party, which was a lot of fun. We had amazing people in town, and you know, which it went great with the late game story. You are dedicated to your beer league, and you left a little early for your playoff game.
Yeah, so yeah, that's the one. Yeah, like you said, that was last week, so we won that game at least. I saw the pictures of like the little gathering afterwards after we showed the movie. I got about 5 minutes of it. Got to still talk to a couple people though, including Connor from the Bear Seals. But yeah, I wish I could have hung around, but at least we won that game.
Yeah, it was worth you getting there for sure. And sorry to hear about last night's game, but yeah, you had a couple points.
Yeah, the 2-2 tie, no goals in OT, and then went to the shootout. So I made sure I wasn't one of the shooters in the shootout after my last attempt. But yeah, I had a pretty good game. Otherwise, goal and an assist. I would have really liked. That when I scored, I put it up 2-1. So like I was really hoping that could have held on and gotten the G dub, but no chance.
Oh man, rough to hear, but I'm sure you guys will be back at it, and there will be further Pizza Boys championships in the future.
Yeah, no doubt. How'd the Bear Seals go?
Yeah, it was good. It was a fun game. We were, you know, it was early for us. It was a 7:30, and we went down 3-1. You know, we thought we were only going to have like 8 or 9 skaters. We ended up with 12, and yeah, we were down 3-1. We were playing the Montucky Cold Snacks, and I mean, it was pretty funny. So we came back. I got a penalty at one point for slashing. That was really just like me being slow, trying to poke at the puck and with zero force, and it got called slashing. So I spent a couple minutes in the box, and we killed that off. And yeah, we ended up scoring a couple more. I think I was on the ice for 2 of our following 3 goals. So I don't know. I think I was like a +2 maybe. And then I fortunately was, let me go back. It's 3-2. We're on the power play. So they were pissed. Or no, it's 3-3. We're on the power play. The other team was just so pissed at the refs. And it's like, they got like 1 penalty the whole night. And it was like the same slashing penalty I got. And, but you know, it was toward the end of the game. So they're mad that we're on the power play. And, Corey takes a nice shot from, I don't know if it was really a shot or a pass from the point, and then I tipped it, and it went straight to Bo, who put it in the back door. And yeah, we took it 4-3. I mean, I think there were probably it's probably like there definitely less than 2 minutes left when that happened, maybe even less than that. And we held on, but it was just hilarious to hear how intensely mad they were at the refs. Like, it was a pretty good, pretty even game. Like, yeah, from their perspective, it probably sucks. I mean, it definitely sucks to be up 3-1 and lose. But my favorite quote from after the game was hearing off ice, this guy's already headed to the locker room yelling, "You're destroying the game," to the ref. And then apparently a bunch of them went up to the front desk to complain about the reffing after. And I'm just like, they didn't call much, but like it was a pretty evenly called game.
Dude, that's hilarious.
He was
We had
crying
a
like Chet. Like it was just
yeah,
like Chet when he was saying, "You're destroying the game."
that's wild. We had a pretty well refed game last night, but um, we high sticked one of their guys, and my buddy Brent was still just like, he apologized, but the whole reason his stick came up is that he got his feet kicked out from him by another player. Um, and the guy just would not stop crying. And even at the dot, there's been a penalty, and we're at the dot, and the ref's just like, "You got the call. What the fuck else do you want?" And that was pretty good. He shut up after that at least. But like, good God, man! Like a team. What really hurts me about us losing the game was like the team we played against. They do all the cheap shit of sticking legs out, fucking slashing, every dirty little fucking thing you can do. But God forbid you touch them, and then they start crying. Like it's the most annoying two qualities a team can simultaneously have.
Yep, you really see some real people come out, some real versions of themselves.
Ridiculous. But thankfully we did have a pretty evenly refed game. Like we also got a couple really late penalties but killed them off. Really what hurts me is Jeff Simpson, our goalie, deserved so much better. He was a fucking brick wall, and we just didn't give him the goal support.
Well, hopefully you guys can make it up to him in the next season. Well, yeah, I mean, other things that we should cover, I think, in this intro. I mean, we mentioned briefly we've, had people in town last week for the watch party. We had 7 cast members here. We did a lot of fun stuff together, got a lot of it recorded. So, hope to get some more content out there and really try to make the late game a destination for beer leaguers. One thing we talked about last week is like everybody knows that feeling of going home and their partner or whoever like gives zero shits about their beer league game. And it's like, you and I talk to each other about our games, and like we talked about how you and Sean will call each other and share beer league stories. And so we want the late game to be a destination to share your beer league stories. Even though most people in your life don't care, we do. So feel free to DM us or email us or whatever your videos or your rants about beer league, and we'll bring them into the conversation.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I like that. And
And
also
on to
shout out to sorry to cut you off. Shout out to Bo and Grayson for making their first late game tour appearances. It was great to have both of them out here.
yeah, oh, absolutely, it was a lot of fun. And I mean, Bo, who hadn't even seen the movie yet, so that was pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, that was a good setting for a first viewing.
Absolutely. I mean, the Holiday Theater was an awesome venue, and the Colorado NHL alumni were great partners, and definitely a great place for Bo to see the film for the first time. Seems like he was pretty happy with it, and getting Grayson in on these trips is definitely a lot of fun as well.
Oh yeah, no, it was great to have the whole crew. We got a lot of solid hang time with the boys, and it was not just hanging around, but like a little bit of purpose to it too. And that was our funnest stop yet. Not I shouldn't be surprised that it was, but man, it was living it was even better than I could have dreamed.
Yeah, no, agreed. And I think some people locally asked us like, "Oh, why'd you wait so long to do it at home?" And it's not even that we waited necessarily. It was just stuff had to fall into place, but it actually worked out. I think that we got experience elsewhere before pulling this one off.
Yeah, 100%. We've had to learn some hard lessons. So this was definitely the smoothest one by a mile on top of everything else.
Agreed. And one of our favorite people was there as well, Taylor Rizzo, who is a producer on the film, was first AD. And while everybody was in town, we got the chance to record a few interviews, and we're going to start out here in episode 7 with Rizzo's. Yeah, any more Rizzo love to share before we switch on over?
I mean, you mentioned actor that plays Hubee, a producer on the film.
Yes.
I think his first AD, but I think something that should almost be a separate credit was just everyone's hype man. Like, got everyone in such a good frame of mind. The glue on set, I think I've heard you refer to him as, which is a perfect way to put it. We had Kevin on. I think multiple people now have specifically mentioned Rizzo as either calming them down or hyping them up or just keeping the vibes as good as possible. And, I had my friends were mostly in the cast, but I still had some friends that were in the crew. Rizzo being the main one, and I can't think of a better pairing of Rizzo and his role. Like, I talk about a guy who just was fully in his own in the zone. Just he was a rock star, man. I can't imagine doing it without him. So this should be a fun episode.
Yeah, I mean, agreed. He just for so many people's mindsets, like you said, and just like getting us moving and together on set, but also someone you could go to when stuff seemed like it was falling apart, and he could help you realize it wasn't. Yeah, heart of the set, a soul, all of those things. So I'm excited to share him with the audience, and we'll go into Rizzo now. All right, thank
So
you.
we've started these lately of like kind of just start talking, and then we'll come in.
Yeah, just wherever.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And then because we're doing like our own little separate intros now.
Right, so me and him will record an intro later.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because we've been
NBD.
recapping our weekly beer league updates, and now we're drifting into like what are you watching too. I think that's kind of fun.
Huh. Nice. Yeah. Just diversify. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, what are you watching right now?
What am I watching? I just finished the Three Body Problem. Have you guys watched that?
I've
on
been hearing a
Netflix?
lot about it. He had a thought that's kind of. I'm not going to say it's kept me away from it because I wouldn't have watched it otherwise anyway, but it makes me think.
What? Will,
Yeah,
what's your
no,
thought? Now I'm so
I
curious.
haven't watched it, but a friend that is very smart said that the science is like unbearably bad in it, and that he mentioned that when his wife read the book, she said the same thing. So that it must just be an issue with the actual story. But I don't know if it's such advanced science that it's something that I wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
But
I
when
mean,
stuff doesn't check out with the nerds, like it's not as exciting to me. Like I'm a huge fan of Expanse thanks to Tyner, and like Expanse checks out with the nerds.
Yeah. But it's weird because I mean, Three Body Problem, the series, the Remembrance of Earth's Past is what it's called. The Three Body Problem is the name of the first book, but it's the best-selling sci-fi series of the last like 30 years.
So I guess that
And
must
it's
just not
and it's
matter.
weird because I think you're right. I think a lot of like science nerds aren't really like accepting it as well, but sci-fi nerds,
Okay.
that is their shit. And so if
I mean,
it's
it sounds like I'm gonna have to watch it. I love sci-fi.
I mean, I'm not a scientist at all, or like,
Well,
but
whatever
it's
you
super
just said,
compelling.
You could have told me was a new log line for New Angels, and
Yeah.
so it sounds like similar
Yeah.
in
It's-
subject matter, if nothing else.
I mean, it's not. It's really not, but it's
Maybe
tonally
tonal,
and stuff
yeah,
like
that's what I
that.
meant. I think that's
But
what I
it's
meant.
really like, it's super interesting, and I am super dyslexic and can't really read very well. I've only read like 4 books my whole life, which is sad. I've read hundreds
okay.
of scripts, but I've only read like 4 books. I don't know what the.
I've
tough.
definitely listened to more audiobooks than I've read books. In the
There's
past 10
something
years.
about the structure of a script that makes it easier for me to read, similar to comic books and stuff like that. But yeah, I can't do that. So, but I follow this guy on YouTube who basically breaks down scientific or sci-fi novels and stuff like that. And I've been watching videos about the Three Body Problem for years now.
Can we shout him out? You know the YouTube creator's name?
Yeah, his name is Quinn's Ideas. He's amazing. If you like anything sci-fi, especially Dune or anything like that, he is incredible at breaking those things down.
I want to like pause time so I can carve out some room for this. That sounds fun.
Yeah, he's amazing. And so I've got really into the story of Three Body Problem like through him without ever reading the book at all. And then so now getting to see the show, and what they did with the show is really, really unique in adapting a story. Whereas basically in the first season, they took aspects of all 3 books and they started putting it in. So they're building it as this one big, huge. So I'm really excited about it. I'm a sci-fi nerd. I claim to be one. And this is something that really stands out for me, particularly. So I'm excited about it. I feel like you would like it a lot.
Like if you had to give it just one hook, like what's the hook that makes it unique? Like, I guess if you want someone to watch it, like, what's sort of the subject matter?
Or are you not prepared to
No,
offer that?
so it's the basically the setup of the whole movie, and this isn't really a giveaway. This is like the first thing.
Oh,
that
so it's
happens.
movie, not series.
Or no, it's a series. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I call movies. Oh, Jesus, I just didn't know. I call TV movies now. I've just completely transitioned.
Visually, it's all the same.
Yeah, I'm writing a show. I call it a movie. It's just completely shifted for me, where I just call everything in that media movies now. And so, but
content.
No, exactly. All in
Long
video
form
content. Yeah, but it's basically the setup is someone contacts, they send a signal out looking for alien life, and they find it, and the alien returns a message and says, "You're lucky that I'm the one who found this. Do not contact us again. We will conquer your Earth. We are not fair people, blah, blah, blah." And the person that contacted them said, "No, humans are not going to be able to save themselves. Please come and save us." And that's the setup for the whole story.
That's fun.
Interesting. Well, I am a sci-fi fan, so I will likely check that out at some point. You think you'll check it out or no?
Eventually. I got enough. I got my list.
Yeah, I mean,
it gets too
if
long.
it's not something that you're like psyched about, maybe don't. But if you like sci-fi at all, if that's something that you're into, give it a shot. 100%.
Rizzo, I love working with you on the late game. I think Tyner would say the same. I know that he would. And we're glad that we were able to have you in so many roles. And, you know, we know a lot about your experience because we were together most of the time through shooting. But tell us about, like, your perspective when you first came in contact with the late game.
Yeah, I mean, it was really early on in the pandemic. Obviously, me and Tyner went to high school together, so we've been pretty close for a long time. And I knew that he was writing something, and he sent me an early script.
Was it still short form? Do you remember?
I think the first script that I read was still short form, and when you were saying that you were planning on making it a feature. And so that was my first intro when it was, God, I mean, almost nothing like what we know it to be now, but the essence of it is still there, and like you can really see like what was trying to be done. And so yeah, that I saw really, really early on, and so I was lucky enough to really see the progression of kind of where the idea started and how it grew through basically every step of the way. Yeah. And so yeah, it was a cool experience. And I having a background in film, I went to film school, and you know, I've worked on movies and stuff before, but I've never, you know, had the pleasure of being involved to this level from start to finish. And it was really eye-opening. I learned a lot. It was so much fun too, man.
You might, unlocking a memory, you might be the second. I brought it to him first. You might have been person number 2 I sent it to after like I got over the anxiety of showing him.
Yeah.
It seems silly in hindsight, but I was scared for anyone to see it.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's hard. I mean, especially, I know you guys have talked about it for forever before anything was written on paper. And so, like, to have this idea that holds so much weight for you guys, like, let's make a real hockey movie. It's like, that's hard, man, putting all those ideas on the paper and then giving it to someone else and hoping they understand what you wrote and hoping that they like it, and, or that there's something, you know, tangible in there that you can really attach to and make it into something real. And you did it.
Thank you. I had a lot of trouble. Like, I think formatting was like kind of my biggest worry with exactly what you're describing of like, how can I make someone else understand this? And like, so it was like essentially writing a novel that had dialogue breaks in it was kind of the way I approached it, as specific as we needed. So that way, you know, let's lay the track down now. And then that's when we really started every draft was like, let's try new stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It really felt, and it flowed, but it did feel segmented between, like, you would have dialogue that looks like a script, obviously, but then when you would get into hockey action and all that stuff, it would read like a novel.
It's like that in the film to an extent. Like, I remember the prose was beautiful, the descriptions of the hockey, but actually on set we found, all right, well, we don't need to film it specifically to this detail, as beautiful as it is, but the movie still has sort of that cadence to it. Like
100%.
The hockey's like, in a good way, kind of its own like dance in the movie, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I knew the hardest part, I've said this before, of like writing hockey was just information overload. So I knew if anything was going to happen, like before I even wrote the first line of dialogue, I wrote the whole game out. I was like, I need to be able to anchor the story to certain parts of the game.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I knew writing that, I was like, I knew we're not going to shoot all of this, but it's like, we needed to know what was happening, sort of reading between the lines for whatever we ended up shooting, which, I mean, the goals, a few of the penalties, all that was scripted, but like,
Yeah, I mean,
I think knowing that going into it made those improv things that Jeff Ingo and Finn set up, like,
for sure,
made those a lot easier to execute because we knew everything around what we were trying to film.
Yeah, going into it having all of that information on the actual page, it gives us a base to be able to be like, oh, we can actually do this play that takes up an entire page. We can do that in, what would be written in a quarter of a page. Which
made like, that minute a page thing really, I didn't know what number did we need to hit for this to be feature length. Like page a minute, I got us in that 90 to 95 page range, but that was a worry all the way up to right before shooting. I was just like, how does this translate? Which we learned on the fly, and that's when we started adding more dialogue stuff to fill in those gaps.
Yeah, I mean, that was the biggest like hurdle I think that we had a lot of small, tall hurdles, but that I think was the biggest, broadest hurdle of like realizing, we're going into shooting a hockey movie. We've never really shot anything on ice before. We shot stuff, but never not to this scale for sure. And so like going into that and like learning that shooting stuff on ice takes an incredible amount of time. And then the time on screen after it's edited, it doesn't really hold up that well. And so we're starting to learn these things in the moment. And for us to be able to transition out of that and like, God, how many scenes did we write on set? Like I have a script somewhere that has the scene written on the back of it in handwritten.
You should find that. You put it in the TLG Hall of Fame.
Exactly,
I want to shout out Zoe, our DIT, which is being in this role for the first time. DIT, Jeff Van Ger would say a lot of things where I'd like, okay, I have to write it down and look up, like, because I should know what this means.
Yeah.
DIT, he's like, when he was like, we're trying to build out our crew, he was like, that was a must, and I did not conceptually even understand what that role was, but for her to basically transcribe the footage so we could see those dailies, I think that helped us inform those decisions early on 100%. To a way that we were able to pivot. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah. No, you're good. No, absolutely. I mean, Zoe's part in that was crucial, and we definitely were flexing a lot, so she had a lot of things to keep up with in that regard. And then I was just going to say, you were talking about sort of the short version of the script, and we were earlier talking about like, it's going to be cool to go back and watch the assembly cut together and see how different it is from the final cut. But also imagine reading those first scripts and how different they are. So.
Yeah, I mean, even in that, like it's hard to convey how different each like version of the script was, because I know a version that was 3 or 4 in that has characters that were never in the final script, dialogue that never made it to the final script, dialogue that was theirs that got shifted to other, and so it's like it's so cool to see that big transition, because what transition was happening in the script, the same transition happened on set when we had to shift into like writing more dialogue, shooting less action. The same thing happened when we were editing the movie, when we had to go through and like you were talking about the assembly cut, which is basically every scene edited individually. You just slam them together and look at the movie as a whole. How do the scenes function? And we basically a few 12-hour days making Tyner edit in real time and just figuring out how everything flowed. And that seeing those 3 steps throughout is the best film school you could ever ask for, and like understanding what it takes to make a movie and not just like have an idea or write a script or go out with a camera with your buddies or edit something on your computer. All of those things together is making a movie, and it was a lot, but I mean,
when to hear you explain it like that is funny, just because like, initially it was just, a lot of it was my frustration with Hollywood and having issues with things that are about to get bought and sold, etc. And like, let's just make a movie. Come on. Yeah. Like, can't be that, like, we had made the stuff that we had made, and I was like, all right, doing this at that much more scale can't be that hard. Like, I've seen it. And then now to hear that we did all of those things, I am even more impressed with us, because looking back, it was just like so much shit, and like with my naivete leading the way and the willingness to make it happen, and then figure out how to do it right along the way. It's very representative of how, for better or worse, I often start businesses, just like figure it out as I go. It's definitely the best learning experience, if nothing else.
I mean, you said something. What have you called yourself? Maybe I don't know if I want this even say, but a serial entrepreneur or something like that, where you really just find something that you're interested in, and there isn't really anything stopping you, and it's super admirable, because so many people get to a point where they're like, this would be awesome, but it's like, it would be awesome if it happened, but not if you go make it happen. And that's the only way to do things. So
following that same track, I remember just when we were growing up, like mature beyond your years, I think when we were in that like high school plus 1 and 2 years, and just like, of all my friends, I think you were the most forward focused of anyone I knew. And I think it's so funny that back then I was like, oh dude, Zucker will be an NHL GM one day. And then thinking back to that now, the most laughable part of that is that you could be fulfilled by only doing the one thing. Like, even at the highest level, I feel like you would still be bored out of your mind to only have the one thing to do. So it's fun to watch you bounce around to all these. Like, I remember when you first told me about Gone Soft and you were going out there to do that pilot presentation, I was, number one, instantly jealous, but because like, you had alerted me to who Jeff Howard was probably a year or so before that, maybe a couple, I don't know. But I remember you when you were like, that's Big Fat, and I was like, holy shit, that's so cool. That guy's from Charleston. And then, just I'd hear little bits of info from you, and now you're going out there to do it, and just seeing the pictures from it, I was just like, it made so much sense, because like your business dealings, real estate, all that, so much of that just goes right over my head. But to see, I feel like the way you are self-organized and motivated, I just think film production fits you like a glove. And it was cool to hear it then, and then just to like be at your side for some of these other projects, and all the way through doing this is pretty wild to see.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, thank you.
We love you.
We love you so much.
But no, that's something that really trickled down to everyone on set. Your confidence that we are gonna make this fucking movie, and like, so many people talk about doing things and don't do them. I'm one of those people, and to know that you're not one of those people, it gave us a lot of confidence, and I felt super like passionate about what we were doing on set, because I knew it was something that was going to happen. Either I could help it happen better, or I could worsen it, but it was going to happen. And I think everybody just felt on board, and it was, I mean, I feel like I've said this in another interview, but I made the joke on set after like 2 days. Guys, are we having the time of our lives right now?
References.
We've mentioned it in pretty much every episode.
But
you saying that.
I stand by it. It was the most fun I've ever had in my life, and I cannot wait to do it again with you guys. Like, it was just so much fun, the community that we built, and how the story of the movie really related to the story of what was going on behind the scenes. Like, we have this person who's coming from out of town and meeting this big group of friends, like Alec coming in and not really being a part of the group, and getting to know all these stupid guys, and like learning who Kevin is, and the dynamic of Tyler and Grayson, like getting all, like, that was happening on set behind the scenes while it was happening in front of camera.
We talked about it in Alec's episode. Like, it's like he was legitimately like living Riley's story in many ways. And I mean, it's such a cool aspect of the set, and I appreciate, the kind words in terms of the trickle down and stuff like that. And like, the bouncing around thing, I just wanted to address, because like there's pros and cons of that from a business perspective. Like, I'm sure plenty of people are like, this guy's just all over the place. Like, what is he doing? But like, in my brain, it all fits together in many ways, and oftentimes the businesses find ways to complement each other that you wouldn't think that they would. And so, I'm like trying to, while running other businesses in the background, just trying to find like what gets me going. And I think that I appreciate that point as well on the hockey thing. I often sit and think like, man, what if I had just like gone to be a GM or an agent or something focused on hockey? But I do think the truth is that I need other things.
Well, speaking to the trickle down, one more, like from the tone he sets, we've often called Finn the linchpin that really elevated things. And I don't know what word we'd use for Rizzo, but you're constant, like,
The soul of the set in
I
many ways.
truly cannot imagine doing this without you, because your positivity was not like overwhelming when people needed it the most. Like Kevin, when Kevin was on last week,
He shouted you out.
He shouted you out for his first scene. He was super nervous, and he was like, I spoke to him to calm him down, but he's like, you did. And I had a lot of anxiety attacks coming up in the days and weeks leading up to shooting, but I feel like I had one panic attack on set, and it was when we rejiggered everything to be at the ice.
I was gonna say I know exactly when it was.
You put me aside, like you brought me from the brink right back in, and it was only a few minutes, and then like me, you, Finn, were in that empty dark party room, and like I'm tearing up just thinking about it.
Made me cry.
Dude, we got on the same page, and I just think that's a microcosm of the whole experience. Like, because I was those first 3 days, I was an absolute wreck. I'd call Megan in the morning, just in tears, just exhausted that like I just don't know if I can hack this out. But going back to Zoe's role, to Finn being the linchpin, to Rizzo's positivity, like I'm leaving a million people out, but everyone really played their part, and it was when we rejiggered everything. We figured out our flow of everyone new working together. That's when my anxiety plummeted, and I was like, okay, what's the next task? And we'll just take it one at a time. And that was the thing that I could never count on when I was just writing it myself, is like I could never imagine this many people working towards making this. So it was so, you talk about the best time, man. It was surreal, top to bottom.
And I would say, like, for what we call Rizzo, to me, was like the thread that kept everybody holding on to each other, like kept everybody together. Like you were the common thread that sort of everybody, you know, in an aspect similar to Susan, like everybody loves Susan, everybody loves Rizzo. And you were just the calmness. And like, I knew that if I was freaking out about something, I could go talk to you and feel better about it one way or another. So that
makes me feel really good.
A lot of Hubee characteristics in your on-set role too.
I mean, when you talk to me, I want to come back and talk about that. But when you talk to me about potentially acting in it, and you asked me who, I mean, you kind of really just left it open. What role do you think you would? And
because I thought you could have been, when there were two ref characters, you definitely could have been the other ref.
100%. And I just felt like the Hubee character, I could fall into that like blindly positive, underlying depressed, like sort of line. And
you brighten him up way more than the page, I think.
I definitely did, and I think that is a lot of something I actually just mentioned to Bo today, that him and Brian, Guy Fry Sandy, their ability to take their act, like, so for Brian, for the Sandy character, for him to take his action, like his acting up really high and be super energetic in here, and then for Bo to be able to drop it really, really low and be super subtle in what he's doing, it gave me just easy leeway to just stay super consistent all the way through. And that's something that I thought that I would be able to bring to the character, but I think that we're talking about this trickle down of all this stuff happening. I think that played a big part in it, because being on set, like that's where I feel the best, and being in that environment, especially with you guys, like I say it's the most fun I ever had, but that's probably the happiest I've ever been. And we were on set maybe like 6-7 days, and then Bo shows up to do some of his scenes, and he told me that it was the happiest he's ever seen me. And that's like,
talk about in your element, man.
Yeah.
Your command of the set, keeping us on the same page. Like,
Can you explain first AD for people that don't know?
So first AD, and I mean, again, I had to learn a lot of these terms too, but in my understanding, you're like essentially the head man of the crew. That's the crew. If someone in the crew has an issue, goes to you, you come to me and Finn.
Yeah.
And Zucker from there. Yeah. And then like, so that's kind of, you're kind of in charge of the crew.
Yeah. The way to look at it is like, it's like, look at it as like a circle, right? I'm in the middle of the circle. Everybody else on the crew is on the outside of the circle. So you have like directors and producers over here. They're really cool. You have like, PAs and stuff over here. You got lighting crew over here. Everybody talks to me, and then I talk to everybody else. Yeah. So like if, say my second, Rachel, has something going on, she would come talk to me, and then I would relay it to you. If you need this actor on set, you would tell me, and then I go get that actor, get him on set. And so there's just, you are
we were there.
the nucleus of everything that's going on.
Because when we first started talking, when I was going to potentially shoot this on my own, you were going to be my DP.
Yeah. And I actually, I told this to Finn, and I said, I put a lot of hard work into the movie, but the best thing that I ever did was turn down being the DP. And I mean, I told you, I was like, I think
that was early on.
It was early on, but I was just like, I would do better in a different position. Like I have a camera background and stuff, but it's just finding Finn was the right thing to do. And it's just that, you know, that's what needed to happen.
Oh yeah,
1,000%.
Everything, so much just worked out the way it was supposed to work.
100%. Yeah, things falling into place I feel like we hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
And so, man.
So, and I mean, I agree. Most fun I've ever had, least I've ever slept, hardest I've ever worked. It's really cool to hear, you know, that Bo said he's the happiest that he'd seen you. Like, yeah, we were definitely all, I think, in our elements. And like how you said, like the film fit me like a glove. Like that whole, it wasn't something I'd really done before in terms of like, here's X number of weeks and you're just going to do this. And that's all you're going to have time for no matter what. Like if you're going to do it right. Yeah. And like, that was just a really cool thing to slip into. And that could get old if you had to do it every single day, but it's like, it's for the project.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and it's like you put all this work. That's what, like, not 100% of your time over years.
Yeah.
And then it's like that condenses down like, okay, let's do all of that again in 2 weeks.
The chase for the Stanley Cup is on, and if you're looking to light the lamp, nothing beats the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. From the start of the playoff beards all the way to the hoisting of the cup, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with same-game parlays, live betting, odds boosts, and so much more. Check out this week's lines and odds on the DraftKings app. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. New customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's code THPN only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.co/ice for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming source resources. Copyright NHL 2024. All rights reserved.
And so it's cool. And I think Tyner's right. Like, film fits you because you can focus for short periods of time and then shift out to
have a lot of tabs
looking on other things. Yeah, exactly.
Have a lot of tabs open.
And that's a cool, like it's just more fun to have like a diverse life, you know, to experience different things and try things and fail and try things and succeed. And
even within this project, I mean, it's essentially all, I wouldn't say all I've done, but for I'd say a solid 3 years.
Yeah.
Writing, totally different from pre-production, totally different from shooting, editing, totally, in each stage of editing, totally different, you know? So it's like, even within the one project, there's so much variety. It's pretty nuts to just, there's no way that gets stale. I mean, I guess it gets stale if you hate it, you know? Like, if we really didn't like what we got,
that's true.
It would have been much more of a slog.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure if there's an actual filmmaker listening, like more legit than us, not, we made a movie though, that's cool. They're probably like, oh, these rookies, like, you know, had a good. It's like when you have a good first year and you're an NHL player, and you win the cup, like you're Tyler Seguin. It's like you don't realize you might never win the cup again. So like, I feel like, you know, personally, we won the cup. I don't really care what people, you know, people do like it, people don't, whatever. But like, we made a fucking movie. So
hell yeah.
This was our first time we had the epiphany watching Mighty Ducks 3 since we've made the movie, and we could actually say we've done something better than this hockey.
Yeah, we're not just talking shit about this movie. We
put up.
Yep.
That was the first. That was the first hockey scene that I've seen outside of our movie in probably well over a year. And so looking at it was odd. Honestly.
So yeah, we had D3 on, and man, like, God, Charlie is just such an asshole in it. It's sad.
Speaking the previous script points, so yeah, I mean, we I think 1% of the intended Mighty Ducks discussion is what made the final cut. There was a lot. I aired out a lot of my.
I mean, there is just so much wrong with it, and it's so sad. And like, I mean, we could go into it all day. I don't know if we want to.
Yeah,
we can.
No, but I mean,
that'll be
just
a separate podcast.
Yeah, we just do a full episode
Talking
where
ducks.
we just talking ducks for sure.
I mean, it really did feel like the early on. I mean, some of those dialogue is like this whole scene is just to be like, this is how I feel about Mighty
It
Ducks.
really is. Yeah.
This is how I feel about it, and now you know.
My justification was like, well, Kevin Smith can talk about Star Wars. I can talk about Mighty
exactly.
Ducks.
Yeah,
right?
why not?
And no, I'm really glad that Finn gave me some sobering analysis, because even with we whittled it down to the one scene with Tyler and Gray, like there's a lot of unused stuff, and I'm excited to see the assembled cut version of that again.
Yeah.
Because we cut even of that one scene, we had to cut 80% of it down.
A lot of it. Yeah, it's we're to a point now where I don't even remember a lot of the stuff
don't
we
either.
cut. It doesn't feel
I
like
really don't.
part of the movie anymore.
I mean, I remember us coming up with all the shit about Mighty Ducks that we wanted to.
We had a whiteboard full of just
Yeah.
like we would share stuff all the time, and just like another Mighty Ducks grievance.
Man.
But every time I talk shit about Mighty Ducks, I feel like I want to say that like
It's from a place of love.
yeah, it's from a place of love. Like I grew up watching them over and over. That's why I'm so critical of them. But also like how society has changed and how it's not a cool thing to show kids looking up skirts these days.
Yeah, it's very strange.
And that was the most recent one.
1996.
Is that when the third one came out? Oh my god.
Yep.
How old are we?
Old.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I don't I love those movies, but there is like a line of like you want it to be something else, is like, especially with hockey movies, like there's so few. It's like
And
give me
they just
something
go
that has
slapstick.
like
And I just get so defensive again, because like if anyone wanted to roast me at DA, Dorchester Academy, they would just, I don't know, give me some shit about knuckle pucks or something.
Yeah.
And I'd just be like, damn it.
Yeah.
That's
It's
not
too easy.
hockey.
It's too easy.
Like Mighty
Yeah.
Ducks is just
Yeah,
making this worse for me.
Jordy and I call me OK Goldberg or something. I'm like, fuck.
Goldberg. Yeah, it's that it's harsh. But hopefully there's gonna be thousands of hockey movies in the future, hopefully.
What was your relationship to hockey prior to the film?
It was minimal. Well, so let's start from the very beginning.
Please.
I grew up going to a daycare that was attached to a skating rink. So I've been skating and rollerblading since literally before I could walk. There's like a picture of me at 1 with skates on.
Awesome.
So I was basically into anything that was involved skating. So I did a lot of like a la Mighty Ducks 2, like street roller hockey and stuff, like into trash cans. So I did a lot of that when I was really young. And then I wasn't really introduced to anything officially hockey until I met Tyner. And so he was obviously very into it. And
that was in high school?
So I moved to South Carolina in 8th grade. Tyner would have been a freshman. And we met that year. And I remember we just ended up playing video games. We'd play like NHL whatever, 06
I
or
think,
something
yeah.
like
We
that.
did it, like right after it.
Wait, 06 would have been your
So
senior
that would have
year.
been senior year. And so like
that
even
was the one we played the most though, with like Preston Buckley.
that's what we played a lot
right after
later.
school, before I had to go into work.
Yeah, and so through Jeff, I started like toying with the idea of playing hockey because I knew I could skate. Even on ice skates, I could still like hold my own at least. And so we started playing pickup a little bit here and there. And then when he moved away,
We got to miss school once
Oh,
for like
yes.
the weakest explanation of like, it's for a science project.
yes, what was our science project? It was the different.
It was some bullshit about friction. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
like-
no, I did one of those. Every
Yeah.
major hockey person, I feel like, does a hockey science project.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
But I
and we
remember,
got to go to lunchtime pickup at the Ice Palace.
I love that.
At like, and miss almost an entire day of school to do it.
pretty
It's
much,
amazing.
yeah. I remember the real scam though is that we wanted to leave super early and go get Chick-fil-A breakfast
Yeah.
because it was we lived
11:30, I
a
think.
half an hour
Yeah.
away from the closest Chick-fil-A.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean that was basically my first like real introduction into hockey. Like I started watching hockey with him more. I had another buddy who was into it, so I started watching more hockey with him as well. And then sort of when Jeff moved away to go to Moore College, right?
Ohio, yeah. Bowling Green.
Yeah, Bowling Green, that's right. I got really into roller hockey. So I started playing pickup roller hockey like 2 or 3 times a week. And then
Danny Jones?
Yeah, Danny
Oh, yeah.
Jones in Park Circle, North Charleston. And then I would start going to ice hockey pickups every once in a while. And then I moved to LA and had to leave all my stuff and didn't play hockey again. And then right after we shot the movie, I got my dad to ship me all of my hockey gear to LA so that I could start playing with Alec. And it got stolen.
Oh no!
Oh no! I don't
two
think
pairs
I
of
knew this.
2 pairs of skates, 2 helmets, all my pads, like multiple old like jerseys, like old Mighty Ducks jerseys, like just a bunch of like.
Damn.
A lot of it was hand-me-down stuff from you, I
If
think.
any
actually.
hockey brands or stores are listening,
Yeah, and
Taylor Rizzo is up for taking on your brand.
I definitely am. And so yeah, I was definitely bummed about that, but I just being around it, like I just like communities, and so like being able to like there's a group of dudes talking about hockey, I can be involved in that, and I just like it. So hockey's the shit, and I'm here for it.
Right.
It took a long time to get me around, but here I am.
Oh yeah.
Well, we are obviously huge fans. The hockey community is better to have you in it. And, you know, one thing I've tended to bring up in these, just because I think it's important stuff to talk about, is like kind of the post-set blues. And part of like why I think about that is like, you know, like when hockey players retire or any athlete retires, like people are trying to be like, let's talk more about how hard it can be. And it's like, I think you have so much adrenaline on set. Like we're running on very little sleep, and it's just it's go, go, go. And so it's a very stark contrast when it ends. And so I'm curious like how that went for you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so just to set the scene, I basically was working a day job for a clothing company at the time and asked them for the time off, and they said no. And so I just told them to fuck off and I quit. And so I went back home to no job and didn't really know what I was going to do. So I was pretty stressed for the first few months, but then I basically reached out to a friend. He got me a job almost immediately at another clothing company, which I love. I'm still with them. And it was like I had to have like this little bit of like realization that the movie wasn't my life, which I want it to be, and to figure out a way to start working towards making that my life and figuring out how to just make movies with my friends for a living, and we're on the way. So hopefully. That wasn't the greatest afterwards, but you know, I'm being able to call you guys, and at the time I was still doing the podcast with Bo and Brian, and so there was a lot to still hold on to that, which is nice.
And that's called What's Wrong With Me?
What's Wrong With Me, yes, which is on hiatus now because Brian decided to move to Brooklyn like a jerk.
But people can go back and listen to the old ones. They're a lot of fun.
They definitely can, especially around that like October 22 time on. We're talking heavy movie stuff. And you know, check out all the ones before that too, because that's fun. But yeah, it was, man.
So I remember once we kind of settled on Hubee for you, I mentioned that Hubie, Guy Fry, Sandy were always kind of one group in my mind.
Yeah.
And I just kind of gave you carte blanche of like, who are 2 guys that you know you'd have good chemistry with? And I don't even think there was a discussion. You're like, I got 2 guys already.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
and we had a Zoom call, just the 3 of us. Maybe Zucker was present for that. Just to sort of like kind of lay things out. And then it only took one table read with Brian to really put his own stamp.
He was so good.
On like elevating Sandy was probably my favorite character on the page, and it's so much more than it was. And just the 3 of you guys, like I don't know, talk about I guess how far back you go with those dudes, and just like what it was getting them on board, because it was I can't imagine it without them.
Yeah, I mean, basically, so I moved to LA in September 2015. Holy shit. Yeah, and so I would go to the Comedy Store every Monday and do their open mics there, and that's where I met Bo, because he was doing open mics and stuff as well at the time, and we got pretty close, just doing stand-up a bunch, and then I knew Brian through other comics. He was good.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really know him very well, but he was really close with my buddy Tyler Gizar, and I ended up moving in with Tyler, and so they were hanging out a bunch, and so I sort of met Brian through that, and we became friends. And then me and Bo had been talking about doing a podcast for the longest time. We tried to do it in my house for a little bit, in a closet, didn't work. And then Brian set up a little studio at his place and was looking for podcasts, and I was like, that's the one, and everything else is history from there. Nice. And so yeah, it's cool, just the little lineage of stuff. I mean, I feel like Bo's one of my closest friends in LA now, and so it's cool, man, to go through this whole thing and merge like these two worlds, like South Carolina and LA, like coming back and like doing stuff. And now you guys are friends with Bo and Brian, so it's just cool to know. It
was wild, all the worlds colliding, especially for me. Like,
well, yeah, for you, I mean, it was like you three
got to
different
meet some people when you came to visit in Bowling Green, but still, like, I don't know. Proton was one of the guys you kind of knew. It's weird to think about a time before you knew guys like Tyler and Grayson.
Yeah.
Well, you know, so it's just like really. I mean, even last night we did the thing at our beer league game, and that's Alec, Bo, Rizzo, Tyler, Grayson. Like, that's a crew that had no cross contamination.
Yeah,
you know,
no,
like everyone's buds, man.
It's
I love it.
Yeah, it's cool when those communities sort of like, because you don't know if friend circles are going to merge, and like it really, for you, it had to be crazy because it was so many people like from your hockey world, and then a lot of like other little people coming through, like people from Ohio. And
sprinkle on a Sean Shapiro here and there. Yeah, it's Matt Mons even, like, just mind blowing.
Yeah, wow. It's honestly crazy to think how many people just play themselves, or like just play like.
I think it goes to show as a whole just how important your close relationships are, at least for me. I mean, it definitely pay off in these moments where like you really need people to come through for you. And I know, Tyner, you especially mentioned like you didn't realize how many people were going to like step up.
Yeah, and like fully committed step up too. No one half-assed it. Like, and you know,
we were worried about Kevin. But
there was no financial incentive, you know, like, so the fact that this many people, like,
and just for clarification, like the cast, we paid them a little bit, not much, and the crew got paid, normal rates, but not crazy.
I'll tell you what, for an independent movie, people got paid more than you usually get paid.
Yeah.
Cool. But I mean, people wanted to make the movie. They wanted to make it so bad. Awesome. And it was like, anytime there was something stifling that, it was like, no, we're gonna get through this. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
And for people that were there that weren't as involved with the editing process as the three of us were, and especially Tyner in terms of actually editing, it was a long wait for them. It finished September 22. The movie's finally finished in January of 24. For us, we were kind of along for the ride. But where was it in your mind during those? Like, you talked about when you got back to LA and you had to kind of come to terms with the fact that it wasn't your full life yet.
Yeah.
But we were still working on it quite a bit. So you had your job plus this to do.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, what was that waiting period and working part like for you?
Oh, I mean, those were waiting for Tyner to do scene by scene. That was all I had. That's what I was waiting for. Like, it was incremental enough in my life that I never felt completely separated from the movie at all. Like, I never felt like I wasn't working on the movie.
Right.
Like, there was always like, you do scene and I would just like write notes about the scene or whatever, just come up with whatever, we would talk about random scenes we would shoot if we could go back. And like, so it was like comforting always having something related to the movie. And obviously you guys were deep in it consistently. And so, for me, it was a little bit fair weather. I got to choose when I was 100% involved, but really, like, that was sort of the anchor keeping me going. Like, this. No,
you were always there if we needed you. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's like it was really cool, and honestly, to see Tyner become an editor, like a professional editor.
Pretty nuts. Like, I'm glad
Eric, during the it's.
I'm
wild,
glad Eric
man.
suggested that I just do the scenes in order, because you can really see, like, I don't know, for me personally, see the progression, especially the speed. The turnaround time is what kept getting quicker and quicker.
For
so
sure.
it's I always expected I would start it just out of necessity, and then eventually we'd bring a real editor in.
Yeah, I remember you kept saying that, and I was
just
like,
oh, I guess we're here.
Yeah.
It's pretty nuts.
No, it really came together. It was pretty awesome. I mean, that's why it's one of the reasons it's going to be so cool to watch the assembly cut and just see like it's got so tight.
Yeah. It really, well, and there's gonna be oh man, sorry, I could talk about the assembly cut for days.
I think we only cut like 15 minutes out, too. Is the crazy thing.
I thought like the first one we watched was like crazy long.
It's like 95 minutes or
okay,
something.
for some reason I thought it was more. Okay.
Oh, so yeah, maybe that's only like 10 or 12 minutes. I don't know.
Be interesting to see.
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun. Yeah, man.
So now that the film is out, it's available in the U.S. for rent and purchase on Prime Video. Some people have seen it. Have you gotten any reactions from friends or family or anyone else? Like, what has the experience been like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been pretty awesome. My sister and her husband just watched it the other night. I told them to make sure the kids are put away in another house, maybe. But yeah, it's cool to see, like my friends who I know are going to be like, you did amazing. Be like, who was that guy in the American flag jersey? Like, is he for real? And I'm like, no, it's my friend Brian. He's a really good stand-up comedian. It's like they're seeing, because for us it's so weird because we know every single person in the movie. We've lived in it. It's like hard to really.
It's hard to imagine how someone else is going to see.
100%, 100%. And so it's like it's cool to see like people that I know and trust and care about their opinion, and for them to talk about like your character and like Proton, and like for them to admire what we did, not just my performance, because I just can't imagine my sister would tell me she didn't like it.
Sure.
But for her to be like, that guy that was on the benches, he's so funny. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, he is.
I mean, I love that vibe. It's very rewarding for people to say those things, and especially one that we've heard a few times is that it has heart, which really we appreciate, I'd say. And part of that was because that set was so cohesive and warm and friendly because I think all of us as producers were open to collaboration. There were already existing friendships on set, so existing dynamics, and just no one felt like they were more of a pro or better than anyone.
No, 100%. Yeah, so usually on set you have this sort of hierarchy, above the line, below the line, and that was non-existent on our set. And that, for me, in any working environment, whether it be a clothing store or on a set making a movie, like those are the environments that I work the best in. Because I don't want to be a boss to anyone, and I also don't want to be treated like I work for someone in this, So it's like figuring out like it's a full collaboration. Like even though you have a smaller role, that role is just as important as Tyner's role. If you don't exist, we don't make the movie. If Tyner doesn't exist, we don't make the movie. So that's
one of my favorite things on a film set is like everyone always like I've been on lots of sets despite this only being my own feature film for the first time, but everybody has their own jobs, and especially on sets that are working well, they all do it, and they all need to happen. Yeah. So to me, it makes it an even easier environment to treat everyone as a peer because everyone is truly a necessity.
Yeah, 100%.
For me, it really like I don't know. Part of the things I was really missing, especially when I had to give up playing real hockey, was just like being part of a team, and plenty of workspaces will try to probably lean on something that we're a team, we're family, bullshit like that. But I think this more than anything else, and I love my beer league teams, but it's recreational. It's recreational. Whereas this is like you're talking about. There's a purpose to everything, and it really scratched an itch I knew I was missing of just like that was a team. Like everyone was working to make that the best movie they could make it, and that's the kind of thing where we're so in our own lane, working task at hand, but every now and then I would just look up and realize, like, how did we get all these people? And what's even crazier is that we shot the same time as Gemstones, as Outer Banks. So in theory, you would think, like, all the best talent in Charleston's used up, and our crew was so fucking awesome.
I mean, maybe all the egos were on other sets.
Absolutely. And I know we had plenty of people not from Charleston, Georgia, what have you. But I mean, that was so fucking cool, man. Like, I could go up and down the list. Everybody was so awesome, just committed, man. We didn't have to worry about a lot of bullshit that I feel like you do, and not just other sets, but other jobs just in life, you know? Like, there's so much bullshit we did not have to deal with.
Yep, we were very fortunate in that regard, and yeah, I mean, got lucky in a few areas, and when we had issues, we dealt with them, and
for sure. Yeah, I'm thinking about the difference between being on a rec team and being on like a team that is like pursuing a championship or something like that.
It's like you have a championship in beer league, but it's commitment level.
But it's like
I'm so thankful for my teams, and I love those guys. Like, I come away after every fucking game just being like, God, I love those guys, man. Just like, but it's the purpose. Yeah, it's like we want to win the games, but when we lose a game, we're not sitting around like our lives are over. You know?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think it's purpose. It's the driving purpose. I think is that like the real like line in the sand that separates.
Yeah, it's like you're going through something. If you don't make it to the end, it's considered a failure, and you did it all as a unit.
There were real stakes.
Yeah, 100%. And it's, I mean, I hate to make like a military but basically, like, if you're in a platoon and you go through this thing and then you come out of it together, if you go through something, it means so much more. Like, even if you don't like someone that you went through it with, there's like something between you, that like a mutual respect, that you went through something together. And
similar
obviously,
with the
like,
movie.
Obviously making the movie is not like in those stakes, but it is like,
right,
there's money involved, there's our lives are involved, and it's like we're taking time to do this thing, and we did it together, and it like that just, it made the relationships that we built so much stronger because of that, I think.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, I like to think that the experience can bring positive impact to everyone involved's lives, and that's part of, you know, my hope in making it more and more successful is not just to get our money back and to potentially make some money, but also like it can continue to change lives for the better for people that were involved, and like everybody worked really hard and deserves success. So, you know, that is on me and on us to make happen for these people and like get this thing out there. But I have faith, and like we're out there with the best asset I could have imagined us having, you know, especially given where we started and our resources and stuff like that. So yeah, feeling good.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
I mean, I think a good point is like, we've all said we want to do this again, and like, I don't just want to do it again. I want this same fucking crew.
Yeah,
you know, like I
absolutely.
want all of us to do this again.
We as a unit
ideally
want to do it again. Yeah,
you know, little extra frills here and there, you know, but like.
And we're going to be going in on a high to the next one. We're going to have high expectations for it. So we got to tamper it down.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? The late game could just be its own extra special thing.
And that's fine. But I think it just speaks to how, you know, awesome.
Absolutely.
The fact that everybody wants to do it again.
Like,
Like
so many
Roughhouse,
people who were on season 1 of Eastbound on the crew, like, have gone through it with them. And I just love the idea. Like, I hope we could get to some level of that. Would be so fucking cool.
Absolutely.
For sure. Man, this is something that I want to do if you guys are down. Can we go through a full day, like my full day on set, from when I wake up to when I to when I go to bed?
Absolutely.
Because basically,
this should be recurring. This is what we should do.
Yeah, and we could have kind of asked that in a way,
but I like it in these specific terms.
Yeah.
Because I mean, so basically, let's go like midway through the shoot. We're shooting at the rink. That's where we shot the longs. That was like our most standard day. So basically, let's say I went to bed at anywhere from 2 to 6 in the morning.
I mean, sometimes after 6.
Yeah, but let's just say generally. And so I'm waking up at 10 and throwing on clothes and just going directly to the rink.
Yeah, because Tyner and I usually got there around 10.
Yeah,
on those days.
I'm doing nothing in the mornings. I am putting on clothes and going directly to the rink. I probably forgot to brush my teeth a few days. I'm sure I did. So straight to the rink.
I brushed my teeth at the rink a few times.
And, that would have been smart. So once I get to the rink, we get our pages for the day that we decided the night before.
Yeah.
We get all our pages, so then we go over it. We get those out to everyone, what our shooting schedule is going to be. Then we start figuring out getting all the actors in, eating a little bit of breakfast.
We have to put our gear on. You got to make the hockey players get in the locker room.
Figuring out what the scene's going to be, if it's a hockey scene on the ice, We got to get all the players in. We got to get them dressed. That's on me. So I have to go into the smelly locker rooms and make sure these dudes are getting dressed. They're usually not. I'll go. It was so funny. I'd go into the locker room. Chris would be just in his street clothes. I'd be like, hey, man, we got to get you dressed. We're going to start shooting in about 10 minutes. Awesome. I'll be right back. I come back like 3 minutes later.
Nothing.
He'd have his pants off.
Okay.
And like he'd be like starting. I'd be like, all right, sick. Come back a few minutes later. He would have his other pants on and then nothing else, chatting on the other side. And then so it was like wrangling like 20 of these dudes in the locker rooms trying to get them dressed.
The young Genos, I didn't have to deal with the young Genos as much because I was on Polly's getting ready.
Exactly. So I'd go to young Gino's locker room, tell them to get dressed. I go to Polly's locker room, tell you guys to get dressed. I come back to Gino's locker room, tell them to get dressed. You guys would actually be halfway dressed over in Polly's locker room. And so, I was like
trying to keep us on pace, but we were very sick of putting our gear on.
I'm sure. And then, and it's like after you shoot, you want to take it off. And then it's like, well, we're shooting another scene later, so you just got to put it right back
Shapiro
on.
really had it down to a science.
Oh my God.
Getting in and out.
Never seen a goalie so quick.
Oh my God. And he broke one of his straps at one point, and I went and bought a sewing kit and sewed a strap back together. And then we just like lightly buckled it because it was not stable. Oh my God. All right. So once we get everyone on set, we can start shooting. Going through the shooting day, we don't have to break that down, but basically we go through the shooting day. We get to our martini shot. We shoot our last shot.
We left out lunch, though.
Oh, yeah, that's true, lunch.
And we call it lunch, apparently, in the biz, regardless of the actual time of day.
Yeah, that is very true. I mean, we would do lunch. Some of the lunches were, like, so good, it was hard to go back to set right after.
Yeah.
Like, everybody...
We've talked about the food a couple times.
And the couches that were in that room, too, were just, like...
A lot of people fell
easy
asleep
to fall asleep on. There's multiple pictures of people asleep on
myself
those
included.
Bo and him are the first two, I think.
Those are the main ones. But yeah, lunch was a highlight for me. Mm-hmm. Really loved lunch. But so
we had a lot of working lunches for the producers. But.
That is very true. Yeah, we would break away and go have our little talks on the side.
Like what needs to get done before the next.
Are we going to finish today? Are we going to get through the day? Are we going to be able to shoot tomorrow? Like, yeah, it got a little...
And so many of those are just like you guys are talking, and I'm just like...
Yep.
Whatever y'all say, let's do it. I have no independent thoughts right now.
But then, okay, so we have our shooting day, right? Get through shooting, do whatever scenes we're going to do. We get to the end of the day, hang out for 10 minutes maybe, get all the gear off. Cast and crew breaks away. The four of us and Rachel.
Yeah.
So
we'd slowly make our way to the penalty box bar.
Yes. We'd grab a whole bunch of snacks from food.
So many snacks.
From Craft Serve. And we'd go to our little pocket, and we would take about 30 seconds to be like, guys, we got through the day. Sick. Awesome. And then we'd be like, all right, what the fuck are we going to do tomorrow? And then we would spend the next few hours.
When we were really cooking too, you would be like, okay, we shot X number of minutes.
Yep.
This many gigs, this many scenes, this many pages. And like when we were really humming, like that was always a good shot in the arm too of like, damn, we're really
knowing exactly what we shot through, knowing the scenes that we set out to shoot, how many of those we actually got through, if we finished the whole day, amazing. And so basically we would figure out what the next day was going to be, and we just did that every day, and that was some of the most fun stuff for me because it was a puzzle, but it was like we had all the pieces. We just had to figure out how to like get them in the right spot to be able to do them.
And it just takes me back to like everybody doing what they needed to do because like we did all that, and then Finn would make sure we had the actual pages, and like I think like he would make them, and then I would get somebody to print them, and then like. And like if anybody faltered in any of those, it could have ruined a day. Like,
100%.
And like whether it was like Kate or Mike going to like FedEx to get the prints or whatever. Like
True.
or the Ice Palace letting us use the printer.
Yes. I mean the fact that we wrote scenes on set, had them printed, and then to the actors by that morning for their scenes that day is like.
Kind of how TV shows run, and my little bit of experience.
A lot of community is that.
Yeah, way. I mean it's pretty impressive for us to have like pulled all that off. Like, it's not.
Do you think people listen and think that we're sucking our own D's much?
I don't care.
I mean, it's the way it went.
I mean, we're we're buddies and we made a fucking feature film.
Yeah, we're
It's like
pumped.
not a lot of people do that. And anyone who I have told who is in the film industry has been like, congratulations.
Yeah, agreed.
Because so many people try this and they are unable to complete it. And
It was my biggest fear of the world was just like we'd get to this and like might not even have enough for a short, and I was just like that was easily my biggest fear, like fueling me. And then because early on I was like, you see the dailies and like, okay, this looks even better than I could have dreamed.
Yeah,
so
for
now
sure.
it's just like, how do we get enough, like I don't know, I kept thinking in my head, I was like, what's the lowest a movie can be? 75 minutes. So I was like, just get us there,
I just knew we were gonna do it for some reason, even though like looking back now, I'm like, oh wow, that was
Well, you told me ahead of time, like I don't know, maybe I got to South Carolina like 4 weeks in advance to just like really get into the prep work. But like I remember I was still in Denver, and you told me that like think about like how shitty some of the stuff is at the bottom of the barrel on like Amazon and Tubi, and it's like all we got to do is be better than that.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? You're fucking right. Like that's all we got. As long as it's not objectively the shittiest movie of all time, I'm like, that's cool, right? And it's
for sure.
You said it, I think, in our first episode. It looks like a movie and it sounds like a movie. The rest is subjective, but we at least did those two things absolutely
100%.
right.
It is a massive success, and we should be proud and not worried about other people thinking that.
Yeah, I'm not.
That we shouldn't. But that so this is my favorite part of the day. We're hanging out. If we finish what we're gonna do for the next day, we know what we're gonna do, and then we get to just hang out for a little bit before we go. That was my favorite part.
Yep.
Then when we break away, our little group, we break away at the end of the night. I'm going back to the hotel, and every night I feel like this. I'm like, man, I gotta go back. I'm alone. I'm gonna go to the room. I'm gonna get a little bit of weed. I'm gonna go back downstairs. I'm gonna smoke by myself, and then I'm just gonna go to bed, I guess. And then every night I get back to the hotel, and everyone is waiting.
Yeah, we
for
didn't
me.
have that.
Everyone is waiting at the hotel for me to get back.
What about when you got back at like 6:30 one time?
That was the only time they
gave up.
But that was worth it because we went to Waffle House until 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
But people were waiting because I had all the weed from LA, and so they were waiting to smoke, and we would all just have a huge smoke circle at the end of the night, and so it was like. It was my favorite way to end the night, just hanging out with everybody and chatting, reminiscing about the day, and like being like, "Oh, I'm excited. We're doing this scene tomorrow." And so yeah, that's what when I think back about my favorite memories, it's in that penalty box bar with you guys, and then going back and hanging out with the crew afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of great time with the Pie Boys on the bench and in the room. So for me, I got the best of all worlds in terms of like getting to be on all of these teams.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, well, I'm also pumped that we have Bo here. We have Bo Loffman. Yeah. I think it's probably a good spot for us to take a break and then bring old Bosif in.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Keep your eye out for our next episode where Bo Loffman, who plays Guy Fry, joins Taylor Rizzo, and we get the duo back together. Also, please like and subscribe on YouTube and rate us on all the platforms where you can. We really appreciate your support.